Hello, Raptors Nation. Sean Davis here for the Raptors Nation, your home for everything Raptors. Happy holidays, and I hope you guys enjoyed your holidays. Safe travels, as always. Back with another episode of the pod, the last podcast of 2022. What a crazy year it was for your Toronto Raptors. Joined, as always, by my partner, Luca Rosano. Luca, how you doing, man? Happy holidays, and also hope you had a great vacation as well, man. How you doing?
Thanks, my man. As always, great to be on the pod. And yeah, it was a great vacay, fully recharged for 2023. And I needed a vacation after what we've seen with this Raptors team as of late. And one more thing I'll say here is 2022 can't end soon enough for the Raptors because, I mean, this is a team that desperately needs a fresh start and a fresh new year to reverse its fortunes. But yeah, we'll dive into all things Raps, obviously, on this show. But it's good to be back, man. Good to be back with you talking Raps.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Luca, where do we begin? Like, it's a lot of crazy stuff that's been going around with the Raptors. Where do we want to kick this off? And do we kick it off with the injury report? I mean, where do you want to start off first, man?
I just want to vent with you and just talk aloud and let everybody else vent in the comment section down below. This has been a very frustrating season as a Raptors fan. And I think it stems from the high expectations we collectively had. We talked about the expectations going into the season. And there were a lot of people who were high on this team. I think you and I both had the Raptors as a top 5 team, as a team that could win a playoff round, be a potential dark horse after talking about teams like the Celtics and the Bucks. But with the way things have gone on, we're not having conversations about whether or not the Raptors can contend. We're having conversations about whether or not the Raptors should blow this thing up, which we'll get into more detail later on in the show. But just the inconsistency, man, it's been killer. It's like every time it looks like the Raptors are about to turn the page, turn the corner, they just have a game like they had the other night against the Clippers where it's like, where is this team coming from? The Raptors, I don't think, have won 3 games in a row all season. They lost the teams they should have beaten. They got embarrassed by Golden State without Steph. I was in vacation, saw the game as I was like walking through the beach. I'm just like, oh my goodness, I'm not even going to partake in this right now. And then, I come back from vacation. The Raptors have 2 resounding wins. They beat the Knicks, in which Siakam had a 50-piece. Then you beat the Cavaliers, the top-ranked defense in the league, and your three-point shooting finally looks somewhat good. And you're thinking, okay, maybe this is when they turn the corner and they go on a winning streak. And then they completely lay an egg against the Clippers. That three-point shooting, once again, the culprit. It's been terrible all season. We were worried about it in the preseason, Sean, and it's now been a lingering issue all season long. And we've seen how detrimental it is to this team. You got inconsistent play from guys like Barnes, Fred, and Gary Trent Jr. is starting to come back a little bit now. But we were talking about it off air. Siakam and OG have just been the 2 mainstays on this team, the 2 bright spots. Other than that, it seems like it's been a complete train wreck with a lot of inconsistency, guys in and out, injured, not playing to their capabilities. Nick Nurse, it seems like, to me, has lost a lot of the, I don't want to use the word trust, but just like emotion from the guys. Like, these players don't look like the same Raptors bunch that used to play under Nick Nurse. A lot of things have been going wrong. And yeah, right now, Sean, they're 15-19. Their schedule's not getting any easier. We'll talk about that more as well. And right now, they are fighting for their lives just to get one of the last play-in positions. Who would have thought that, right? So, yeah, better days hopefully coming for this Raptors team.
Yeah, and I'm going to start off with some positivity. Like you mentioned.
I just completely avalanche negativity on the show. My bad.
Yeah, and to be a little bit positive, like we mentioned, Pascal Siakam has been incredible all season long, especially. Really, I mean, even with the injury, Pascal's been great. On the year, he's averaging 26.6 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, 6.8 assists. Pascal has been awesome, right? And that feels like we talk about the inconsistencies with this Raptors team. He's been the one bright spot, or one of a few bright spots. Like you mentioned, OG has been really, really good. In the last 10 games, Luca. Pascal's averaging 29.5, 8 boards, 6 assists, including a career high 52-point game in the Garden. He's been spectacular, and he's kind of tried to, I feel like, be more of a like, hey, look, I'm tired of losing, so I'm just gonna go drop 50 or drop this or whatever. So Pascal's been awesome, but and maybe I'll dive into the film and see like you mentioned, like with Nick Nurse, if he's really just lost some of the guys, if he's like schematically not done as good of a job this year. But Luca, what would you say outside? Because I also think the Raptors have been dealt a bad bill of health this season, right? Like Preston Chua, been down for a little while now. Otto Porter Jr. probably won't play until mid to late January, dealing with that hip injury. Like you said, he's going to be out for at least another month, a couple of weeks back. From I forget who said it, from somebody from Sportsnet, I believe. So like Luca, all in all, what do you think has been the biggest reason why the Raptors have, really struggled so far this season?
I think it was a lack of addressing issues on this team going in. I think you look at the Eastern Conference landscape, a lot of the teams got better. Boston, a team that didn't necessarily have to make moves, went out and made some moves. You look at obviously the Hawks, who are not performing the way many people thought, but they went out and made a splash. Cleveland went out and made a splash. The 76ers went out to get some reinforcement pieces. The Brooklyn Nets, amidst of people thinking they were going to blow it up, went out and got some reinforcement pieces, one of which, Yuta Watanabe, has been one of the greatest stories of this basketball season. So a lot of the Eastern Conference top seeds right now did things this offseason to improve their team, their team's needs, and fill some voids that have made these teams a lot better than they were a season ago. I feel like the Toronto Raptors didn't do that. And now you can say they did make moves, obviously drafting a guy like Koloko, who is still really raw. He needs some time to get to the level of play that we expect to see him in. They go out and get Otto Porter Jr., who unfortunately has been injured, but I feel like they didn't do enough. And the Raptors now have not addressed the needs of having a true big and 3-point shooting for a couple of seasons now, because this has been, another season where those have been lingering issues. And this offseason, they did not do that. So we've seen it time and time again this season. Not having a true big, kind of banking on Koloko to come along right away has not worked. The Raptors have not had a true big since Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol days, and they've heard a lot from that. And then going to the 3-point shooting, they thought they were going to, have a guy like Otto Porter Jr. come in and help out a ton with that. But unfortunately, he's been injured, and the 3-point shooting has been abysmal on this team. And for as long as the Raptors are not shooting the ball well from deep, they're not going to win these games. I saw a staggering statistic. I wish I had it in front of me, but games in which the Raptors are shooting, I think it's better than 35 or 40%. They're near unbeatable. But as soon as that 3-point shooting percentage tanks, this team is fighting for their life to win a game. And we've seen it. It is night and day. When the Raptors are able to shoot the three with consistency, they look like one of the best teams in the East, Sean. I mean, we saw that when they had arguably their best shooting performance of the season in that statement win, if you want to call it that, at the time against Cleveland just the other day. But then when this team can't hit their shots, they do not look good at all. And we saw that against a Clippers team that can hit the three ball a ton. So those are two biggest things to me. And then another thing from like a personnel standpoint, because the Raptors didn't go out and make a big move, make a big splash, they were banking on internal growth from this team. Fred VanVleet has not played like he did last season. A lot of people wanted to see Fred play like an all-star again. He's been a far cry from that, and he's definitely not 100%. He actually left last game due to some, I think they're calling it back stiffness. Gary Trent Jr., people were expecting him to take a leap. He's been inconsistent. Scotty Barnes, for as much as I love his game and I hope he becomes the cornerstone piece of this Raptors franchise, he has had his sophomore slumps. He's had some flashes of brilliance, but overall he's been inconsistent as well. So I think all that together has caused for this Raptors team to, fall out of the gate here and stumble to a 15-19 start to begin their season.
I was waiting for you to say the word. And if you didn't say it, I was going to say it. But we talked about it even, Luca, heading in, like you doing our, preseason preview or whatever you like you said, Brooklyn even getting Ben Simmons back. Also, shout out to you for calling Brooklyn. I fell off and said nope, but they are on a 10-game winning streak right now. KD's been probably the MVP of the league. I don't know if that's bold or not, but Brooklyn, you get Ben Simmons back, you get Joe Harris back from injury, and all those guys. Philly didn't make too many acquisitions off the top of my head, but like even then, a full season with James Harden now. PJ Tucker, I guess, was a big deal, sort of in the offseason. But that's a really good rotation player added, and Trez and a couple of guys. Milwaukee, you're getting Chris Middleton back healthy, right? And granted, he hasn't been healthy quite yet, but getting him back, we know how good. And I think at least I'm sure we would agree on this. If Middleton's healthy, they probably beat Boston. And I personally think if Middleton's healthy, they probably win the finals last year, repeat. Boston, like you mentioned, Atlanta, even though I was not high on them at all coming in, they go make a big splash. Cleveland makes a big splash. And like we said, coming in, like if the Raptors are going to be that top 5 seed like we project them to be, it was going to come down to Scottie taking another step. Fred VanVleet reassuring himself as that all-star caliber point guard. Gary Trent Jr. or OG Anunoby taking the next step. Because, I mean, all these guys taking the next leap was going to kind of be maybe a little unrealistic. But, like, Gary Trent or, OG taking another step. And then some of these role players like Otto, Thad, Precious, who we were the conductors of the Precious Achua fan train or, whatever, fan club or whatever. And basically none of those things have happened except OG Anunoby really, really playing well. So, yeah. Now, granted, I'm still slightly optimistic because, like, some of this stuff, like, I do think Fred's going to get back to that point. We've seen some flashes, some, like, games where, like, okay, yes, more of this. But like you said, man, it's been a whole bunch of inconsistency from this team. Like, Gary's starting to turn it around a little bit now, but Fred's been inconsistent. Scottie, past couple of games, he had that game where he got benched. But Scottie, past couple of games, been a lot better. But like Scottie, like you said, has had his moments where he's just flat out struggled. But yeah, these last 2 games, he had a big time game at Cleveland, and then he was pretty good last night as well against the Clippers, 17, 12, and 8. So just getting a couple more of these guys to, be more consistent. And I think we get Precious back. That'll be a big deal. And I really, really think they were counting on Otto to be healthy and because like he's their best shooter on this team statistically. Well, actually, it's Malachi Flynn, it's OG, and then it's Otto. And those are the only 3 players. Yeah, the only 3 players that are shooting 35% or more this season from 3. Malachi Flynn, Otto Porter Jr., and OG. So definitely need Otto to get back, and then Precious as well, just for some more of that size. Because, like you mentioned, they've had to throw Coy Loco to the wall. I don't think they plan on Harmon Gomez. I just botched his name. But
Gomez, yeah.
They didn't plan on him. Yeah, they weren't planning on him starting. Like no.
Exactly, and like that I was gonna mention that, like Hernan Gomez, man. Listen, great movie and all, but he has struggled mightily this season, and he's had to be in some positions that he didn't even think he was going to find himself for this season. So yeah, that just goes to show it's a combination of things, man. It's a combination of Raptors not properly addressing their needs, being dealt bad hands, whether it be injuries, guys not licking themselves, and yeah, right now I think this team's at its lowest point, and we'll see if it continues to spiral out of control or if somehow they can turn the corner. But going back to their schedule and how it's not getting any easier, you got the Grizzlies tomorrow or today, whenever this podcast comes out. You got the Suns. They're going to be without Booker, so you catch a little bit of a break there. Pacers, who have been pretty good this season, Bucks, Knicks, Blazers, and then you finally catch a bit of a break when you have the Hornets back to back. So not too many wins that are going to be guarantees. I mean, no win is a guarantee in the NBA. Even those games against the Hornets will not be guarantees. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Raptors start off 2023, because that will dictate a whole ton. And that's actually going to lead me to the next thing I want to talk about here. The Raptors' place in the standings, and what will this team ultimately do closer to the trade deadline? We're going to talk more about it as we get closer to that date. But I think, Sean, the beginning of this new year is going to tell a whole lot about which direction Masai takes, because we know Masai Ujiri doesn't care about the play-in. And right now, it's like the Raptors are trying so hard just to get that last play-in spot. I was telling you this off air. It looks like it's going to come down to the Raptors or the Bulls, two disappointing teams for the season, who are going to get that last play-in spot. That's if the Knicks don't completely fall off, or the Pacers, which is a possibility they could. But Masai Ujiri didn't envision that. Bobby Webster didn't envision that this team would be playing their hardest just to make a play-in spot. So if this team continues to tinker, if this team continues to stumble, and all of a sudden they're not 4 games under 500, they're 5, they're 6, what direction will Masai Ujiri take at the trade deadline? Will he go into full blow this thing up mode? Will he look to get aggressive in terms of bringing some of the needs on this team, shooting a big? The Raptors have been linked to so many different players over the last couple of weeks. If you want to get into rumors, I've seen Miles Turner's name come up. Jakob Poeltl, who I think would be an excellent big on this team, come up. Zach LaVine's name even came up because the Bulls are reportedly maybe going to blow it up themselves. So I'm curious to hear your take on this. If you're the Raptors, you look at their place in the standings right now, what do you think they do, or is it solely dependent on how these next couple of weeks pan out?
I was just about to say that. It really does depend on these next few weeks. Like, I'm looking at the schedule right now, and they have a road trip in the middle of January, which includes New York, Milwaukee, and Minnesota. And then you come back home for a couple games against Boston, New York. And then you have a West Coast trip, a brutal West Coast trip. You have to know before that West Coast trip. And I'm looking at these first couple of games heading into the new year. So you have Memphis and Phoenix. Memphis today at the time, the day this podcast gets released. And then Phoenix, right? It's a back-to-back at home. By the way, that Phoenix game should be winnable. No Devin Booker. He's out for at least the next 4 weeks with the groin injury. But then, like, Indiana in Indy, Milwaukee at home, New York at home. Like, those are 3 games against playoff contenders. And then, like you said, like Portland, but then like Charlotte, back-to-back, Atlanta. These are all teams. You like I said, you got to know before that West Coast trip. And if you're, like you said, 6 games under, let's just say it's like you're 4 under right now. Let's say you don't make any improvements, you actually get worse. You're 7 games under 500, heading into it's like what, a 7-game road West Coast road trip at Sacramento, Golden State, Portland, Phoenix, Utah, Houston, and Memphis. That's actually 7 games or so. If you're like 6 or 7 games under 500, I'd highly consider, at least consider, blowing it all up. I'd consider blowing it up and seeing what the market is for almost for everybody except Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes. I think there would be a contender out there. Like, they're just going to be linked to him because it's this team. But, like, if the Lakers somehow make some improvements, I mean, like they get a couple games closer or whatever. Like, I think they're 7 games under right now. Let's say they get like 3 games under by the deadline. The Lakers could be a team, where they're calling about Gary Trent Jr. They might be willing to pay Gary Trent Jr. as well. OG, especially the way OG's played this year. I think you could get, obviously his market would be insane, especially the way he's playing. And Fred is the one where I'm not sure how much of a market he's have, because there's just so many high-level point guards. Like, what contender is really in the need for? Maybe Dallas, maybe. But, like, even then, like, what are you getting from Dallas, right? So I think it really does depend, Luca, in my opinion, on where the Raptors stand by, I don't know, let's say if you want a hard date, like January 22nd.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why these next couple of weeks, very interesting. And I do think Masai Ujiri could get aggressive here in terms of, 1 or 2 ways, whether it's to add to this team if the Raptors are able to make a bit of a run and all of a sudden they find themselves in the top 8 trying to get a top 6 spot, or the other way where if this thing completely falls off the rail and the Raptors just look like a team that's completely dead in the water, we could see Masai Ujiri stir the pot. And I would say this, Sean, if the Raptors are going to blow this thing up, I would say we both agree. Scotty Barnes, you don't touch. That's the guy you're going to go into the next part of this franchise's, existence with him leading the way. I would say, though, I think you don't touch OG. I would say Scotty Barnes and OG, you absolutely keep, and you actually see what you could get for a Pascal Siakam.
Okay.
Because think about this: if you're actually rebuilding, right? Siakam's 28 years old. Van Vliet is how old? And then he's 27,
30?
or he's 28. Those two guys don't fit your timeline of a rebuild. A Scotty Barnes and OG Anunoby, who I think is 23 now, those guys fit the timeline. So I would actually, if the Raptors are going to blow this thing up and be aggressive in that way, I would see what you can get for your two All-Stars, for a Siakam, for a Van Vliet, and really build around Scotty and OG. But even OG would probably get a whole ton of phone calls from teams in the league because, I mean, he's been elevated his game on the offensive side, and we know what he brings to the table defensively. So you probably get compelling packages for him. Gary Trent Jr. is another no-brainer. You see we could get from him as well. So, yeah, I think if the Raptors do plan on blowing this thing up and they take that route, Scotty's the for sure guy you don't touch. But, yeah, I would definitely see what you could get for a Pascal Siakam because I think if you are looking to rebuild and start over with this team and collecting draft picks, the timelines just don't make sense. You go all in on Scotty. And then, yeah, you look to see if you could enter the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes, which, by the way, looking at the standings again, you're peeking on through. The Raptors aren't totally far off from falling into that sweepstakes if they indeed tank and go that direction. But
the Raptors have the 9th best draft odds right now for the number 1 overall pick as of right now. Now, granted, I don't think that's factoring in like the play-in or anything like that. But like per tankathon or whatever, right now they have the 9th best odds at the first overall pick. And that's what I'm saying. So like I think all in all, the whole point of this is I don't expect Masai to like just stand pat at the deadline. I think there has to, even like if this team like gets back to 500, like there's some more expiring play, I think it's gonna be okay, let's go get a big, or let's go get some more shooting. Or like we just elaborated on not too long ago, this team is like 7 games under 500. Like I mentioned before, that brutal West Coast trip where best case scenario, you like split. So like you're coming out of that 6 games under 500. So I think it's either they're going to be aggressive, like you said, either aggressive and we're going to make a move to really like push it this year, next year, or we're going to blow it up. And I say like Scotty and Pascal, no, Lucas and Scotty and OG are the untouchables. But yes, basically we agree. No Scotty.
Yeah, no Scotty, you can't. And yeah, that's what's going to make these next couple of weeks interesting. If the Raptors can get closer, look competent, look like a team that can compete, Masai, I think, will make some moves. But then the other way stands true. If the Raptors completely look lost and they don't play well at all, we could see some major changes coming. And that includes Nick Nurse as well, whose job could be in jeopardy after the season is over. I do want to just ask you this out loud. When you look at this Raptors team, because I know there's 2 sides to it right now. And this is like with every team when they debate, should we tank or not, or should we blow this thing up or not? And I'm playing devil's advocate here. I don't know how I feel about this right now, but what I will say is this. Like, if the Raptors do choose to go that route where they blow this up, try to acquire assets, play for the future, build around Barnes, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that because I'm looking at it from this perspective. If the Raptors are fully healthy, right, and this is the team they bring to the forefront, and then you look at some of the top teams in the East, Sean, like can the Raptors really get through the Bucks, the Celtics, the Brooklyn Nets now in a playoff series and get to the ultimate prize, which is, of course, winning a championship, the Philadelphia 76ers? I don't know. I think a lot of good things would have to happen, and that's why I think the timelines just don't match because the Raptors thought, let's put this team, let's roll with this team right now. Siakam's going to play like a superstar type player, which credit to him, he has been all NBAer. But Fred has fallen off. And then I think they were banking on Scotty Barnes to have the same timeline as like a Pascal of playing like an all-star right away, but that just doesn't seem to be the case. He needs more time. So the timelines don't match, which is why you have the situation where it's like, should we, play for the future or play for now? But my point is, even if the Raptors play for now, are they good enough to go against those juggernauts and beat them in a playoff series? I don't know. I don't think so.
I think the only, and I've had the same thought since the preseason. The Raptors are fully healthy, and like Scotty starts to really play well, like he has the past 2 games. Fred turns it around, and you get the same level of production from Pascal. Gary, now he's like coming off the bench as 6-man, and OG still playing really, really well. The only 2 teams I'm like, there's no shot you're beating them is Milwaukee and Boston, if those 2 teams are fully healthy. Everybody else, you have it ranges from puncher shot to a, you could actually win. Like Brooklyn, the way they're playing right now, like
you're not beating Brooklyn, Sean. I'm sorry. The Raptors aren't. I'm sorry. The Raptors are not beating Brooklyn in a best of 7. The Nets swept them this season. KD and Kyrie look engaged. I know we're saying the 2 teams are you got to add a third. Brooklyn is in that category. Those are the 3 teams.
They're not a 10-game win streak too.
I'm not going to be a homer. I'm being realistic here. You're not beating the Nets. You're not beating the Bucks, Celtics, or Nets.
Okay. Cleveland, I think you're in.
100% you are. Yeah, you'd feel really good about a first-round playoff matchup against Cleveland.
Yeah. Miami, you just have all the size in the world.
Yeah.
Spo's the best coach in the NBA, in my opinion, but you just have all the size in the world. Miami has have a few really good shooters, but like Toronto's size theoretically should bother them. I still personally like a Philly series. I like the matchup.
I do too.
Personally, especially you have the far superior coaching as well in a 7-game playoff series. So I like that one.
Atlanta, we both like that.
Yeah, Atlanta, I'll give Trae Young 1 game. So like, but to your point, like what best case scenario, this is still a 1-round playoff series win for the Raptors this season. Where like even a couple of these other teams, Luca, like we talked about Cleveland, although like we just said, we feel Toronto could really compete with Cleveland, if not knock them off. If you for some reason said Cleveland went on a Eastern Conference Finals run and pushed one of those superior 3 teams to 6 or 7 games, I wouldn't be surprised. So that's something that's gonna be a tough decision that Masai and the front office is gonna have to make in the coming weeks.
And that just speaks volumes to how crazy of a decision this is ultimately going to be, because the Raptors are in, it seems, no man's land, right? We literally just like laid it out. Reasons why they could keep this thing as is and it would work out, and reasons why it wouldn't. They're literally stuck dead in the middle, it seems. And like Sean talked about, I think before that West Coast trip, management should know, okay, this is what we're going to do, and just proceed with that plan of action. And another thing I want to bring up quickly here and get your opinion on it is Nick Nurse, because I know you're an X's and O guy. You look at the film, you break it down wonderfully. Nick Nurse has been receiving a lot of flack. What has been your reaction to or take on Nick Nurse and how he's been able to adjust schematically this season? And just looking at the Raptors play, do you think that's another issue that has been going on with this team where, Nick Nurse seems to have lost some of these guys and lost the locker room? I mean, it's nice to have Malachi Flynn now getting some minutes, because for the longest time, it's like, what the hell is Nick Nurse doing? Like, play the guy, alleviates pressure off Fred. And I mean, this is like another take I have. I think Fred has the injury problems that he has is because he's been worked to the ground over the last couple of seasons, and it's really now paying off on him as he's getting older. And then you have, Chris Boucher, who was your reliable 6th man, and over the last 2 games, he's been barely getting minutes. So, what do you make of what Nick Nurse is trying to do here? And do you think that's another issue that's added on to some of the other issues we talked about?
Right. So in terms of like the X's and O's and stuff, I'm not going to speak on it quite yet. I'm going to dive into a little bit more, and then for the next pile, I'll probably go a little bit more in depth there. Don't want to speak falsely there, but I will say this. The rotations or whatever, if we want to be fair and honest, they've always been, in my opinion, a little weird. They've always been that way, especially since Nick's been the head coach. But the Raptors have almost always had success. So nobody said anything. It's like last year, it was the same thing last year. The year before, the COVID year was so weird though. So people gave it a pass. The bubble, just like that, the title year. Like the rotations have always been kind of weird with Nick Nurse. Now it's not looking as good. Fred VanVleet is clearly banged up all the time, it seems like. So I get it, but like I'm not going to be too negative about it because like yeah, it's worked. So from Nick's perspective, like if they broke, they'll fix it. But now I think you have to make the adjustment, like you said, Malachi Flynn, play him more. And I think I've also seen like some maybe like fire Nick Nurse stuff going around.
I think that was going on today. I saw Nick Nurse's name trending. That's why I wanted to bring it up.
Oh, his name was
I'm
trending.
like, wait,
Okay.
what's going on?
And here's what I'll say. Top 8 coaches don't grow on trees. They do not grow on trees. You can fire, like Dwayne Casey was never a top 8 head coach. Let's be for real. Like he won coach of the year. His last year was great. He was never a top 8 head coach. You replaced a coach of the year with, in my opinion, heading in a top 5 coach. And he's probably right around there. So like 5 to 7 or something along those lines. Like you just don't like fire him and then replace, like Golden State couldn't fire Steve Kerr and immediately or I guess you could, but it's just so rare to fire somebody and get somebody honestly even better that quickly. So let's calm down. I think Nick, it would have to go terrible this year. Like they just blow it up this year. It sucks next year. And then the year after, we're talking about Nick Nurse potentially getting fired. Like Nick has 2 years before we, in my opinion, you start talking hot seat. Because I think he's shown enough over the past how well he adjusts in playoff series, in game and out of game, like from game to game. Defensively, when you give him the guys, how good of a coach he is. Offensively, too, even sometimes. I don't think he's the best offensive coach, but I think he does just enough. So, and again, he's a top 8 coach, and like there's only 4, 5, 6 coaches better than him. So that's my take on Nick Nurse. I'll go more in the X's and O's on the next pod, but that's just my thoughts on Nick.
So if the Raptors miss the playoffs and playing completely, you don't think he's getting fired? No shot.
No shot. Next year, maybe, but no, you don't fire him after this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you give him a little bit of leeway. You know, like you said, he is one of the top coaches in the league, which is hard to find. And the dude was a part of that championship winning team in 2019. You gotta take that into consideration. A team, for as good as that team was, you still need the engineer to put it all together. And Nick Nurse did a great job with the hand that he was dealt. So yeah, I actually agree with that. But it's crazy what losing does, right? It's wild. The last time we did this pod, we were in a much better mood, much more optimistic, thinking about, this team could compete with the Bostons and the Bucks of the world. And here we are, fast forward a month later, and we're talking about so many hypotheticals of whether or not this team will blow it up, and Nick Nurse's job security and all that. So it's wild. Yeah. Life in the NBA.
And last thing, so I just off the top of my head without watching too much film, I went through the 32 teams, or not 32, wrong sport. Also, shout out to the Chargers who made the playoffs. Out of the 30 teams, I counted 7 coaches I'd rank right now above Nick. And a couple of those, I'm like, I'm like reaching for a few of those. Like, Nick gets to finish on my point, he's like 5 to 10. You're not replacing a dude that's between top 5, top 10. You don't replace him. Even though it's not been pretty, you don't do it. Not yet. Not yet.
We'll see what happens, but anything else? I think we've covered basically everything we needed to. The Raptors got to start winning, that's for sure.
Yeah. Let's wrap things up with the injury report really quickly. Preston Achiuwa, who is still been dealing with that ankle injury. I don't even, when was the last time he played? He is questionable for tonight's game against the Memphis Grizzlies, so hopefully you can get him back. Christian Koiloko is also questionable with the knee injury for tonight's game against the Grizzlies, and Fred VanVleet with the back is also questionable for tonight's game against the Grizzlies. A game in which the Grizzlies ever since John Morant had that quote, They got beat pretty badly by a banged up Suns team and a banged up Warriors team. So let's see if the Raptors can keep that same energy. And yeah, Preston Chua has not played since November 9th against the Houston Rockets. So yeah, they definitely need him back. And even when he does come back, Luke, I don't expect too much minutes from him. He'll probably be on minutes restriction.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, we need Precious back. I mean, he's another big body, another high energy player from off the bench. So yeah, hopefully he can come back and get back into the rotation. And things were flowing a lot better when he was here on this team. A lot of things were going right around that time for the Raps. So hopefully he could be that positive energy, good luck that this team needs. Because again, for as much as we want to talk about, how many voids this team has, things of that nature, they aren't 100%, missing a couple of key rotation pieces. So hopefully if health's on this team side, they could get back to normality.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Once again, happy holidays and happy New Year. This is the last Raptors Nation podcast of 2022. So make sure you guys like and subscribe here to the Raptors Nation YouTube channel. Ring that post notification bell as well. Give us a 5-star rating and review. Everybody on Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Spread some cheer and let's get ready for a heck of a new year. See what I did there with that rhyme. Luke and my man, thank you so much. Until next time, everybody, stay safe and see ya.